So good morning and welcome to today's Small Business Bootcamp session. My name is Faith Ritchie, Senior Program Manager of Small Business Services at the Arizona Commerce Authority, and filling in for usual host Robert Theobald. Today I'm excited to provide and facilitate this session, but by first giving thanks and acknowledgement to our many community partners who, without their time and expertise, we would not be able to provide the content that we've been able to provide for nearly 300 sessions. The Small Business Bootcamp is a free weekly educational webinar designed to help business owners prepare, plan, and grow their business in Arizona. Additionally to our live Tuesday morning sessions, we also host various workshops as well as maintain all session recordings as part of our content library. So even if you are unable to join us Tuesday mornings, you can always dive back into those session recordings and additional resources as part of that content library. We currently have well over 250 recorded sessions and content available for you, again, provided by Arizona experts at no charge. So you can take that time and review those recordings, those sessions, that information at any time, and it's all available to you on our website. The Arizona Commerce Authority additionally hosts a variety of programs that may be beneficial for your business. While we have a small sampling here on the screen, we will be sharing the link to the ACA program's website, and I encourage you to review that webpage to see all of the different ways you can connect with the Arizona Commerce Authority. One of our fantastic programs offered is our Small Business Checklist. The Small Business Checklist is an interactive and intuitive online guide to help you answer all of those commonly asked questions in regards to licensing and permitting your business. So whether you are looking to identify local, state, or federal level, you can find that information available to you on the Small Business Checklist. Here are some small business updates that hopefully you can engage and participate in. The first being the Arizona Game and Fish will be hosting an outdoor recreation business summit. This is especially special to us as Robert Theobald, our Vice President of Small Business Services, will be hosting our 300th Small Business Bootcamp session live from the Recreation Business Summit. So if you're wanting to see him in the flesh, it's a great opportunity. But it's going to be a great conversation for recreation outdoor business owners. And so if this is something that is of interest to you, we will be sharing that registration link in the chat. I encourage you to review the content and access. This is a free summit and opportunity. So please check that registration link out. Additionally, another workshop opportunity provided by the Arizona Commerce Authority and Blue Cyber. We're going to be hosting a cybersecurity workshop. This workshop specifically is to assist businesses in the government audit process of cybersecurity. So what can you do to protect your business and how you can position yourself to win in government contracts? We're very excited to have Blue Cyber providing this information. This is a larger ACA promoted opportunity, so you can find it on Eventbrite. But again, all these links will be in the chat for you. So if you have the availability, the interest, I encourage you, please look at those registration links and see if you can join us in person for those two opportunities. Here is a look of our upcoming sessions. Now, I was just talking to our presenter right before today's call, and next week is Thanksgiving. So please acknowledge we will be taking a brief break, just an acknowledgement of the holiday. I hope everyone has something wonderful planned, but we will be right back on schedule that following Tuesday and diving into additional sessions to help you succeed through the year and prepare for next year. So really looking forward to these sessions. And of course, we will continue to provide these through the end of the year. But while we are all here, I am so excited to welcome back Jonathan Mabb to talk about the importance of knowing what your business is worth. We are always so excited for this conversation and get so much out of it. So Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're excited to have you back with us to talk about this very important topic. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen to allow you to screen share. And as Jonathan is pulling up his presentation, I'm sure there will be questions. So please find that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and enter your questions there. We don't want them to get lost. We want to make sure we can identify those and answer those for you because this is going to be a great session for us to really dive into. So Jonathan, thank you so much again and happy to turn the time over.
Thank you very much, Faith. I really appreciate it and excited to be with everyone today. We were just talking, I think the last time I was did a presentation was last December, so it's been a little bit. So we'll have to make sure we don't have that much time go by till next time. So we're going to talk a lot today about the importance of knowing what your business is worth. So why do you need a business valuation? How does it help you? And what information can you get out of it? And when do you need it? So we're going to dive into quite a few topics there. Now, with that, I do want to introduce myself, kind of give you a little bit of background. I'm going to also go ahead and in the chat, put my information there so that if you need it to copy it in there. But I'm a financial planner, been a financial planner since 2005. I grew up in a background of small family business. And so before I was a financial planner, I was in a family business managing about 100 employees. And my dad came to me and my brothers at one time. I had 4 brothers. And he says, look, the business is, you have 4 brothers. He was one of 3 owners. And he goes, it's really hard to split 1/3 and 2/5. And so he went right up front, told us what his business plan was, that it wasn't going to include us inheriting the business from him, that he was going to have an exit strategy prior to that. So I've personally been involved in the business transition process. I watched the business transfer from my grandfather to my father and to my uncles, as well as I've worked with many other individuals in my financial planning career as far as it comes to developing business transition and also helping and assisting with those. So I hope to share a few stories just so to help you and to maybe relate and just think about those things as we go through our information today. So diving right in, about 35% of business owners have actually begun the planning process when it comes to business planning. And so I'm gonna first, I want to do a couple poll questions to get started. I meant to do one at the beginning. So the first poll question is, when do you plan to transfer or sell your business? So if you guys can kind of give me an idea where you're sitting on it, we have quite a few people. Is how soon are you hoping or planning to do it? All right, we're gonna let just a couple more. All right, perfect. Looks like we got the questions ended. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the results. So this is excellent. We kind of have a little bit of blend. We got some that are ready to do it right away. Others in the next 2 to 5, as well as the next 6 to 10, and then some a little bit after. So whether you're planning on selling your business right now or whether you are planning on selling it in 10 years, I promise that this information is going to be good for all of you. So let me kind of dive back into this part is that, you know, as I mentioned, 35% of business owners have started the business planning process. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about stats. These stats came from a business survey of business owners in 2022. So they're pretty relative stats of recent business owners. Now, when we look at the business planning process, it has several different stages to it. And so you may have already started some of these stages, but I wanted you to start thinking about what have you done as far as the planning process in your business strategy. First thing you need to do is identify needs. Now, financial needs. Now, financial needs can be the financial needs of the business owner as well as financial needs of the business. You need to have an understanding of what both are needed. As far as a transition process, you need to develop a strong management team that's ready to continue on after you. You need to talk to your family. I mentioned, like in my family situation, my father told us very early in our lives what his planning was. That planning helped us to make sure that there was no questions of what was going to happen in the future. You also need to identify potential successors. I have a situation right now where I know a business owner that's ready to transition. The problem is he waited until he's ready to transition to identify his successor, and the successor isn't financially ready. I highly recommend that you start thinking well ahead of who that successor is going to be. Is it coming from in the business? Is it coming from the family? Is it coming from an outside source? So knowing where your successor is going to come from is very important as far as how soon you'll talk to them. In addition to these areas, we also want to make sure that you talk to the company and you discuss the internal with internal parties what your plans are. You don't need to always make it a secret. I understand there's times for secrecy when it comes to business planning and what you want your employees to know or not to know, but you also don't want to have them on edge and just wonder what's the plan going down the road. And so in order to create that good atmosphere within the business, I highly recommend that you do have some conversation with them. The last thing that you want to do is make sure that you kind of have an idea of a time frame. As I mentioned right at the beginning, what's your time frame? And so that way you can think about what steps that you need to take. So that dives us into business value. So we believe business value is an important piece of the planning process. In fact, we would consider it the foundation of the planning process in the exit plan, as well as knowing where your health of your business is. So if we're building this financial home that's considered your business, we believe that business value is a key component. From there, we need to build some walls or some pillars for the roof to stand on, and having a plan for succession, having a plan for your retirement, and having an estate plan. We build what helps build those strong walls around that business to make sure it's always going to be able to stand. And then also having a transition plan. What do you want as far as your lifestyle goes? And how are you going to transition? Are you going to plan on staying in the business as a kind of more silent party? Are you never going to leave the business? Or you're going to cut ties and be done? So having that strong financial structure when it comes to building the financial strength of the business. Now, there is some common roadblocks. I want you to sit there and think about where you're at in the business planning process. And I want you to think about what's prevented you from taking the next steps or from doing a business plan at all. When we look at it, often people think, well, I don't need it yet, or I'm just way too busy. I can't even think about that now. I think that's something I run into with a lot of business owners. They get so busy in their businesses, it's hard to really future plan. Others is, I just don't have the money to do it. Some may say, I just don't know who to talk to. Who do I need to work with? Other pieces is, I just don't want to have that conversation with my business partners or my family. It's just uncomfortable. So think about what your roadblocks are, and then try to create a plan to get past those roadblocks. We don't want those roadblocks preventing us from doing something that's good and something that's important. Now, on the other hand, there's also some motivators that help us in order for us to be ready and to get us motivated. I want to protect my family. I want to protect the business. I want to protect my employees. I was doing some personal planning, and it prompted me to do business planning. I've worked with a lot of individuals that's where it started. Hey, I need to start focusing on me and my retirement. And then when we start discussing retirement, they come to the understanding of they need to do the business planning to be more retirement ready, or they were educated. So what's your motivation to get going? Why is it important to you? And make sure we get you past those roadblocks that are stopping you from doing it. Now, in our survey that we did, nearly 60% of business owners say that they plan to sell their business. So that's only a little over half of people think that they're going to sell their business one day. But we want to give you a couple different facts when it comes to this. So right now, it looks like by the time 2030 comes around, about 250,000 businesses plan to be sold. However, only about 50,000 of them are going to get market ready. That means business owners get them ready to be sold, and don't delay that plan. Only about 30,000 of those 250,000 will actually sell. 16,000 will sell for concessions, mean you won't get the price or terms that you hoped or wanted, and about 15,000 of will get your sell at a desired price. So why is these numbers important? Please don't think they don't matter, they don't apply to you, because those that plan effectively and make sure that they take the right steps to get their business ready, they're going to be part of that 30,000 to sell, and hopefully part of the 15,000 get their desired selling price. What we have to understand is about 80% of businesses don't actually sell the way that the owner wants them to sell. So understanding your different options that we're going to go over today is extremely important, and knowing what actions that you can take. Now, about 10% of business owners, I want you to sit there and think of where you're at as far as a business owners. Do you feel that you'll ever leave your business, or do you feel that you're going to always stay in your business? The one thing I want you to completely understand and know is that there's no possibility that someone will stay in their business forever. Eventually, unfortunately, death does come, or disability does come. There's going to come a point in time where every business owner is going to have to exit their business. So don't think that I don't need a plan, because I just don't think it'll ever happen to me. Because no matter what, everyone will have to have some sort of plan, whether it's estate or retirement or other transition plan that comes into play. Now, unfortunately, 66% of business owners feel they don't know what their options are. So we hope after this webinar that you're part of, that you'll have a better idea of what your options are, and so that you can do some more strategic planning. So why do business owners never leave their business? So there's a couple reasons. I want you to sit there and think about yourself and where you are in your business and how you feel about your business. One of the main reasons that people tend to not leave their business is it's what we call it's my baby. I've put so much hard work in it. This is the business that wouldn't be able to rely on, wouldn't be able to continue running without me. I don't know what I would do with my life if the business wasn't here. So it's your baby. The other reason that business owners tend to not want to leave their business is their lifestyle. They're concerned that if they exit the business, that they wouldn't be able to continue the lifestyle that they're currently living. How many of you feel that if you were to sell your business, that you would be able to continue to have that same lifestyle, or would you have to have a reduced lifestyle? We hope that with proper and effective planning, that we can help alleviate these things, that we can help you come up with a plan of what you might do after the business, and so that you don't feel like you need to stay in the business in order to have meaning or purpose. But most importantly, that when you leave your business, that you know you're financially ready to leave the business, and that the business will be fine, but most importantly, you will be fine as well. So with this, we have to really look at what type of mindset owner you are. We're going to categorize owners for this purpose really into two different mindsets. So I want you to to think about what mindset that you're in. And after I describe them, I just want you kind of note down where you're at and if you feel that you need to make a change in any way. So the lifestyle owner is the one that's really focusing on current income. When they go to work and when they feel that their company is successful, it's all about the paycheck that they're receiving as an owner and what type of lifestyle it's providing to them. When they look at the valuation, it has to deal with you know, how much income is the company providing me, is really what they're going to be looking at. So the lifestyle owner is really focused on the now. They're not looking very much into the future. And the thing that's most important to them is their income and the support and lifestyle that it's creating. Now, the value creator is a little bit different. Income is always going to be important to any business owner, but they may be willing to give up some short-term income in order to create a more valuable business. So what they're going to be really looking at is what steps are they doing in order to make their business more marketable in the future, or to make sure that they have the items in play. Maybe that's another hired person, that when they do exit the business, that there's someone that can take over their roles for them. So when they look at valuation, what they're going to want to make sure they do is that they sell the business in order to provide the retirement income they need. So yes, income's important. The main differences between these two individuals is one is going to really think about the future, and they're going to make decisions now that are going to affect the future, and willing to maybe give up some things now in order to have a better future. Where the lifestyle owner is really making more decisions is, how can I increase everything now without that long-term plan? Okay, so knowing the true value of your business, as I mentioned, is something that is extremely important. In fact, about 61% of business owners feel that they need to know the value of the business. Now, when we look at this valuation, about 52% have actually done a valuation, and about in four of those have done that valuation themselves. Now, that can be very dangerous when you're doing the valuation yourself. In fact, the historical numbers is that there's a standard deviation of about 60%. So what that means is that those that do their own valuations without bringing in an expert to help them could be about 60% off. Either they're too high on their valuation or they're too low on their valuation. Now, if you're not correct when it comes to your valuation, that can be very significant. It can affect buy-sell agreements. It can affect estate planning. I have a group that I'm working with right now that they contacted me way too late in the process. They were really concerned about estate plan because mom's health was going away and she was still a business owner. And unfortunately, she passed away before they could make some decisions. Now, looking at their situation, they hadn't done any valuations, and now they're going to be looking at some estate taxation because they didn't do any planning. So we highly recommend that you use people that are accredited when it comes to it. We highly recommend that you really focus on those intangibles, and I'll talk a little bit about those intangibles in just a second, that build value. But just coming up with what you think the value is not the best method. So yes, you know, this, someone mentioned in a little chat, they talked about how do you work with two people. So as I mentioned, I worked in family business, and in my family business, there was two different people. I would call my father the entrepreneur, and I would call my uncle the conservative. So my uncle was the one that pulled in the reins, and my father was always trying to grow the business. Now, there can be great balance when you have two different personalities in your business. So I wouldn't want you to take that as a negative, but I want you to realize that having good conversations with those individuals can actually create a really strong business when you have two people looking at two different areas and multiple ideas coming with it. So when we look at business valuations, there are four capitals that we really think that you need to focus on. So what you're going to realize is I'm not going to be talking about your revenue here, but I want to talk about the capitals that really will look at increasing your valuation. The first one is your human capital. So your human capital is your staff and the ability of your staff to function without you and in order and to be able to continue to run that business. So human capital is an important piece. Many business owners, if you really sit there and you think about it, is if you weren't in the business, how valuable would that be? And so it's important to build that human capital to make that business valuable without you. The next thing we're going to look at is customer capital. So customer capital is basically customer loyalty. How much of the market cap do you have in your business? So that customer loyalty is an extremely important piece, and the desire for your customers to work with you. Structural capital we're going to get into is trade secrets. So when we look at trade secrets, these can be from patents to copyrights, or it can just be just pure knowledge. So trade secrets can be an important piece. Why does someone want to buy you? You may have a competitor that wants to buy you because they want to know your trade secrets, or they may want to have your human capital because they feel that human capital will help them expand. Social capital is becoming more and more important. This is just how well are you on socially? Do people know of you? Is it a named brand? And your social connection can also be, how well are you known in the social markets? So I don't feel that you have to really focus on every single one of these categories, but I want you to really consider these categories when it comes to your business and how strong are they, because these tend to bring up your basically that valuation, and it's not going to all be about the balance sheet. Balance sheets is extremely important, but the capitals behind the balance sheet really will bring that comfort into the buyer when it comes time to buy. So one thing, just to remind you, if you do have questions, please throw it into the questions and answers, not the chat. That helps me so that I can see that a little bit easier. And we'll make sure we answer those questions either during our session or at the end of it. We'll take some time and go through the questions that might be there. So looking at business valuations, there's multiple different methods when it comes to valuing your business that they're going to look at. We're going to divide them kind of in three different categories. Some of them are asset driven. So, what are the assets of the business? Some of them are market driven. So how well are you as far as your market? And some of them are earnings based. The one valuation that we really want to try to stay away from is what I'll say is the liquidation valuation. Liquidation valuations typically happen when you don't have buyers and you just have to liquidate. It's where you're going to get the least value for your business. So don't prevent yourself from doing proper planning to where you're forced to do a liquidation. So when we look at the different valuations methods, so a book value is going to basically looking at your balance sheet. Based off of your balance sheet, and your assets, they're going to come up with the value of your business. Market value is they're going to look at basically your competitors, what competitors have sold, and what's the going price or the going multiples that your competitors are receiving to determine your value. The capitalization earnings value, what they're going to do is they're going to look at what revenue you're producing, and they're going to determine a multiple based off of those. So I mean, if you have basically an earnings of $1 million, and you might get a multiple of 1.5 or 2% of that to determine your value. These experts that I talked about, the accredited valuators, they're going to know what your industry is using and what's the best valuation for your industry. And that's why I recommend that you look at those, talk to those experts and follow up with them to see which one is best for you. And don't come up with your methodology. That's where we get that really big differentiation of about a 60% standard deviation. Discounted cash flow of that valuation, what they're going to be looking at is what the projected incomes are going to be over a period of time, and they use a discounted number based off of that. Asset accumulation is they're going to look at asset values and what assets are going to accumulate over time to determine their valuation. So there's lots of different methodologies that you can use for valuation, and having those experts to help you figure out what the right one really will be helpful, so you're not using the incorrect one for your company and your industry. So why do we need a good business valuation? One of the main reasons that we need to make sure is buy-sell agreements. So I'm going to ask another poll question here. Is how many of you have completed a business valuation first? Whoops, I went too fast on that. Let me ask that one more time. All right, if you could answer that, how many of you completed a business valuation? Are you guys able to see that poll question? All right, there we go. Sorry, thank you. There you go. Survey should be up again. All right. Thank you. So it looks like most people haven't done a business valuation. So let's talk a little bit about why you need these valuations and what are some of the moving reasons that you might need them. So buy-sell agreements are one of the primary reasons that you might need a business valuation. So, but if you don't value your buy-sell agreement properly, you could very quickly and easily underfund your buy-sell agreement. Retirement planning. You know, many of you guys are within 10 years of retirement or selling your business. I assuming selling your business brings you to a retirement. So knowing what your business is worth now versus what it might be worth in 10 years, we don't want you to have a retirement shortfall. And so getting that idea of what your business might be worth would make sure that you have a more comfortable and a more planned retirement. Estate planning, as I mentioned, one of the businesses I'm working with right now, they're running into an estate planning issue. And if they did not have cash or other investments on hand, it could become extremely expensive for them to pay the estate tax that they're going to have to. And so estate planning is extremely important to make sure that you are protected and you don't have to liquidate your business to cover estate taxes. Inequality in distributing to the assets to the heirs. So that's basically is how am I going to transfer money to my family in the future? Maybe you have a couple children that are working in the business and some that are not working in the business, and how can you balance that? Disagreement with family members. You know, one family member may think the business is worth this and another one may feel it's worth something else. It also could be a disagreement with business owners if your partner's the one that's going to buy you. Is coming up with an agreement early on of how you're going to value the business. So there's many reasons of why we need a business valuation. We don't always have to pay a high dollar number in order to get our business valuation, depending on the needs, but we need to have a good idea what our business value is worth in order to make sure we're planning properly for our future. So when it looks at business valuations, one of the things that you need to determine or think about is what's the direction of your business. So I've talked to several business owners. I think every business owner hopes their business is in the growing stage. Some have a realization that they've kind of flattened out on their growth and they're just want to stay at where they're at, and others realize that their business is actually decreasing in value. So understanding and planning based off of what's going on with your business is important. How will that business value change in the next 5 years, or will it change in the next 10 years? What are things that you can do in order to help it to grow is also extremely important. Now, why might we need a business valuation now versus the future? So currently, people might need a business valuation because they want to see how healthy their business is. They want to know what they could get currently on a sale, or maybe they need to get a loan and the bank's requiring them to have a business valuation. So there's many reasons why we might currently need one. On the other hand, what we really need to make sure is that we're also future planning. I think that's one of the hardest things for business owners sometimes, is to look into the future. When I say future, we're talking 5 and 10 years out. Business owners are busy. They have their family, they have their business, they have their employees, they have a lot to worry about that prevents them from really future planning. So we want to make sure that you have a plan of what's your company's growth potential and how can your company get to that growth potential. We also need to work on estate and tax planning. When you sell your business, how are you going to sell it? Are you going to get a lump sum? Are you going to carry the note? And why would you want to choose one way or the other? So let's talk a little bit about that for just a second. One of the most expensive things that will happen to us in our lives is the transaction of the sale of our business. If we're going to get a lump sum at that moment in time for the sale of our business, we are going to have to pay taxes at that moment in time. Now, hopefully, most of those taxes are going to be capital gains. However, those capital gains will be taxed at the top capital gains rate. And so just realize that what you sell your business for is going to probably transact at roughly a 25 to 30% discount after you pay taxes. So you're not going to get that full value. So having that plan, understanding what your tax liability will be or what your estate tax liability may be, is an extremely important piece in your planning for retirement and other needs. And one of the most important topics that I work a lot with business owners on is, will my business provide me enough money so I can retire? Or do I need to stay in the business to continue to receive income? How will my business continue to provide for me in my future, whether it's on a sale or where I stay in it? So I talked about the importance on adding value to your business, making sure your business is growing. And so want you to sit there and think about things that can detract from a business and things that can add value to your business. So if we look at that added value column, obviously a growing business is going to be a very marketable. If you have a dominant market share, basically you're the one primary in there, or you're one of the main partners in there, that can be appealing. Reoccurring revenue, so not having to find new customers each and every year, will be extremely appealing. So having that to where you know that those customers will be repeat for you. Barriers to entry, it's not easy to enter the marketplace. So your marketplace is one that is kind of limited as far as people coming in. How is your company different? How is your product or your human capital different? What are your advantage, your innovations, your brand? So I want you to sit there and think. You don't need to hit every one of those value adds, but what are your value adds that you can focus on or you can build on in order to make your business more marketable and to grow in those areas? Now, when it comes to sales and marketing, customer satisfaction, HR, those are all just expected. They kind of don't have a very big play when it comes into the price and the sale of a business. And things that tend to take away from the sale of business is possibly senior management, that your management is unfortunately older and they may be transitioning out sooner versus later. Business owners are going to be wanting to come in and buy a business with the management that's going to be there for a while. So making sure that senior management has a plan for staying with it and a motivation to stay there. customer diversification, legal issues, financial issues. There's many things that can detract. So really see what you can do as far as focusing on the things that will bring value and coming up with plans that will help alleviate some of those detractors when it comes to the valuation process. So buy-sell agreements. I'm going to ask one more poll question for us today. And this poll question is, do you have a written buy-sell agreement? All right. We're going to go ahead and end that. So it looks like most of you don't have a buy-sell agreement. So let's talk a little bit about what a buy-sell agreement is. So with a buy-sell agreement, buy-sell agreements come in for many reasons. But I would tell you, whether you're a sole proprietor or an LLC with one owner or one member, we need to make sure that everyone has some sort of buy-sell agreement in place. So if you have partners, that's when it's most important for you to have a buy-sell agreement. If something was to happen to one of the owners in a partnership, will the spouse be the new partner? Will the children be the new partners? You want to have that agreement written as far as what's going to happen if you pass away. I want you to think about your business, and in a business, if you were to leave your business 90 days ago, how valuable will you be your business today? We're going to have you throw that in chat. So if you left your business 90 days ago, would your business have equal value today, or would it have a decreased value? How valuable would your business be? So if you guys want to post in chat, okay. So we have some equals, decreased value. So many businesses, the owner often is one of the key components of that. And when you have a buy-sell agreement, if you're the sole proprietor of that business, part of that buy-sell agreement needs to have a methodology in order for your business to be able to continue on after you. And so buy-sell agreements isn't all about the sell plan, but oftentimes it's how will that business continue to run or function. And when you look at protecting your family on a buy-sell agreement and you're a sole proprietor, you want to make sure that there's a method that your spouse or your family could sell the business and get the same equal value. So looking at buy-sell agreements, they cover many things. They cover how to handle a partnership issue, how to handle a sell transaction, how to make sure that there's someone to step into your shoes if you were to pass on or become disabled. So all of those are going to come into that buy-sell part of the succession planning. Now, one of the things that we need to make sure we do is when we have a buy-sell agreement is we need to make sure we fund it. So if there has to be a sell transaction, how will that sell transaction play out? Will you use life insurance to buy out the owner? Will you use disability insurance to help buy out the owner? Or will you use the profits of the business in order to do that? So just want to remind everyone again, if you do have questions, please post those in the questions and answer section, not the chat. You can find that at the bottom, and that will help us, keep track of those questions, and so we do answer them. So as far as what's important when it comes into a good succession plan, what we really talk about is making sure that you set up your goals as far as it comes to the plan. As I mentioned right at the beginning, I've seen businesses where the goals were stated very much so up front. My father in his situation, he stated right up front, his goal was to sell, whether it was to his partners or to a third party, his goal was to sell. and that was stated up front. I've also seen a business plan where the goals weren't stated. They knew they were going to sell it one day, but they never identified their successors. And so because they never identified the successors and there wasn't a market share or competitor that wanted to buy them, it's making it very difficult for the current ownership in order to sell. So other things that come into it is we want to make sure we have a strong management. You know, this gets into that question. If your business was to not have you for the past 90 days, what would happen to it? Making sure that you have a good human capital or management team or sales team that's going to continue that business beyond and past you. Also talk about the timeline. At the very beginning, my question was, how soon were you wanting to do this? Developing that timeline, and so that you can develop or create specific things that you need to do as you prepare for it. Now, finances to me is one of the most important things when it comes to buyouts or plans to come on to sell, is we want to make sure it's the right time for you to sell. I've seen business owners that don't plan properly, and so that when it comes to selling, they can't sell because they can't afford to sell because they didn't save enough money in order to move on. So one thing also is it's important to have your buy-sell agreement reviewed from time to time. Looking at just some stats, about 25% of those that were surveyed had their buy-sell reviewed in the last 1 year, 28% in the last 2 years, 36% 3 to 5 years, and 11% more than 5 years ago. So those were pretty good numbers. So a buy-sell agreement is not something that's one and done. Life changes, events happen. Making sure that you keep that buy-sell agreement updated and funded properly is good. The other part of the buy-sell agreement is that your business value today is going to probably be different in 5 years. And so you really need to make sure that you keep that valuation set up. Now, knowing when you're going to retire or when you want to retire is an important thing. So being prepared for that retirement in many ways helps. You want to be mentally ready to transition, as well as you need to be financially ready to transition when it comes to retirement or leaving your business. Oftentimes, we find that there's unfortunately a retirement gap because business owners don't get the amount of money they want out of their business in order to retire, and they have very low assets outside of their business. So I want you to sit there and think about where your assets are. Are your assets all tied up into your business, or do you have savings, investments, and retirement plans outside of your business? And so knowing what you have one way or the other can really make a big difference. About 65% of those business owners that were surveyed had 500 or less saved outside of the business. And so the price that they received on the sale of the business was going to be one of the most important factors. So please, I know it's hard. I know we like to grow our businesses. I know we like to have a certain lifestyle. It's important for us to save money outside of the business, so that way when it comes time to retire, that we're not reliant 100% on the sell price of our business, because we may not get what we want, which delays our retirement or causes us to have a retirement lifestyle that's less than planned. So when we look at getting retirement ready, as far as valuation goes, we have to make sure that we look at everything that the business provides to us. Knowing business owners, if you sit there and think what the business provides to you, there's the salary it provides. You may have a retirement plan that you're using, but oftentimes business owners use the business to pay for other items. It may be paying for vehicles, cell phones, dining. There's many things and other items that the business is paying for. So making sure that you add back those monies into the salary it's providing, so you really understand what the true financial number is that you need to have when it comes to retirement. So why is it important to know what your need is or what your lifestyle financial number is? Because that business valuation needs to be able to help create that income for you. Now, when we look at creating that income for you, typically when you're investing money outside of a business and we want to make sure that money is going to last your lifetime, you'll be able to take about 4 to 6% of the amount of money you have invested out of your portfolio each year. So if you had $1 million, for example, that $1 million will provide you $40,000 to $60,000 of income. If you're on that 60,000 number, there's some higher risk of you running out of money. If you're on that 40,000, you're going to be a little bit safer in knowing you won't run out of money. So understanding what money can provide you outside of the business is an important piece in helping you know how much money that you need to have in order to create the income that you desire in retirement. So when we look at it, oftentimes business owners, based off of this information, have to really make some decisions. Are they going to be able to sell the business to where they can exit with no ties? Probably the best and cleanest way to leave a business is you're done and that you don't have to worry about it anymore. You have plenty of assets outside that to take care of you. Or are you going to still need some business revenue and just say, look, I'm going to step back and I'm going to be a silent partner, but you're going to still receive some of those business profits from the business. The disadvantage or the risk that comes with this one is, will your successors, as you being a silent partner, still be able to run the business in a way that it can still provide for you? Or you may say, look, I'm going to sell, but I'm going to provide them a consulting service afterwards. And the new owners come up with some sort of agreement as far as an ongoing consultant fee for a period of time in order to make sure that transition happens smoothly for them, as well as it helps you provide a little bit of extra income as you transition into retirement. There's also this business owners that, they're going to stay indefinitely. Unfortunately, remember, father time comes upon all of us, and whether it's physically or mentally, at some point in time, we're just not going to be that same person anymore. I want you to think of your grandparents and your parents or wherever they are in their age, and just realize that as you get older, that capacity to do the same things is not going to be the same. And there's some high risk in you just being the primary person forever. So understanding, and I think this is pretty common, 2/3 of business owners say that their business is their largest asset. I think that's extremely common, but we need to understand what that asset's value is. For many reasons, as I mentioned, we need to make sure that we understand what it is for retirement planning, but we also need to make sure we understand what it is for estate planning, and so that you can make sure that you make necessary decisions in order to be able to take care of the costs that might come in from an estate. Now, estate taxes, yeah, that number is much higher, but when it comes to estate planning, they're going to look at household residence, assets, business value. They're going to look at the full estate value. If you have a life insurance policy, that's added to that estate value to determine if any estate taxes are going to be paid. We do have a higher number as it is for estate tax protection now, but realize that can change it in the future. So what's set in stone today is not necessarily going to be the same thing in the future. So knowing where you're at and being flexible in your planning can be extremely important. If you're getting close to the numbers as far as estate tax goes, you want to maybe start taking some of the extra strategies that you can. Now, estate planning isn't all about taxation. Sometimes it's about liquidity. If your business is your primary asset, it may not be a very liquid asset. I said at the very beginning when we talked about valuations that they use or methods they come up with value, if you have to come up with money because of liquidity reasons, you may have to sell in a liquidation phase versus one of the other ones to be patient for that business owner. Estate equalization. Think about how you want to pass that money on to your heirs, whether it's spouse, children, whoever you want. How are you going to make it equal? I'm dealing with a business right now where we have two brothers that stayed in the business and a sister that didn't. Those two brothers are going to receive a lion's share of the business. That's what the plan was from the family. The sister had knowledge of that. She knew because of their extra work in the business, they're going to get a greater piece of that asset. So understanding how you want to equalize, and then make sure you communicate that equalization to your family so that there's no disagreements when it comes down to it. So other pieces that I highly recommend, especially if you're in partnerships, is, and many of you did not have a valuation right now, is have an agreement with your family or your partners of how you're going to determine the business value at time of need. So if you have a death that does happen, have it written in your estate plan of how that valuation is going to be determined. And so you don't have fighting amongst yourselves to determine those things and how you're going to make things equal with each other. So if you tend to get to a position and you need money because you don't have enough liquidity, really want you to think about some things that you can do in order to protect yourself. Liquidating the assets of the business is not the best method. That's usually rushed. Borrowing can be extremely difficult if it's in a rush service that the bank may not be as quick or willing to provide the business money if you are not there. Life insurance can be a very protective piece. With good planning, you can keep the costs down, and it also can provide that flexibility that your heirs need in order to buy out a business owner, whether it's to provide liquidity for estate reasons, or whether it's to provide liquidity just to bring on new management in order to replace you. So when we look at estate plans, there's many different pieces that you need to look at. We need to make sure we have trust, wills, business valuations, estate equalization strategies, funding vehicles, whether it's cash flow for business or life insurance, and possibly even estate reduction strategies. Are we going to gift away parts of the business to avoid estate taxation? No matter where you're at or what you need, we need to make sure that we understand the components that we need in the estate plan. How can you determine what you need? And I'll finish up, Faith, in just 1 second. I see. We need to make sure that we work with financial planners and proper attorneys in order to help. So I sure hope the information that I have has been helpful for you. We really covered most of everything that I had to share for you. Want you to know that I'm available for free consultations. If you do want information, please reach out to me and complete the survey that will be emailed to you. Thanks, Faith.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Got us right up to the hour. We do have one question in the Q&A. Do you have any insights to valuating intellectual property in structural capital?
So I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to be an expert in that space, but what we would want to do is find out who the proper evaluator is. And so we could look at finding the right appraiser for you in order to determining that. So we just need to look at where you are industry-wise and get you in contact with the right person. So whether that's through associations, or other methods, we just need to find the right people to help you.
Excellent. Thank you. So we'll leave another moment with your information on the screen, Jonathan. Again, as mentioned, we will be doing a brief survey after today's session. So please take some time to fill that out. Jonathan, thank you again so much for today's information and session. It's always so good to see that people are getting the information when they need it. So thanks for always including polls. It's always so great to see who's participating in these conversations.
And just so they know, if they have other questions, since we ran out of time, just tell them to send them to me an email. Happy to help them out and answer those questions via email since we're running out of time today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And another reminder that today's slide deck and recording will be available later on our website. So you can always review today's information there as well. So thank you again, Jonathan, for joining us. Thank you, all of you, for joining and participating, responding to those polls and asking questions. We appreciate your time with us. Again, we will be taking a brief pause in our schedule next week for the Thanksgiving holiday, but we will be back right after November 28th. So thank you all so much for your time again this morning. Have a wonderful day and have a happy holiday week. Thanks again.
Thank you.